just finally know what I have to do. And I know in my heart that it's right.
He contributed immensely to the field, so I won't roast Tony Stark off rip.
You serious?
I just finished watching the first, and as we know now, probably last season of Ironheart, and while I think in my last video that I did after having seen the first 3 episodes, I still cut this series a lot of slack, and my general message was like, let's not judge this too early, they could still turn it around, it could still end on a very positive note, but now I've seen the ending, so I won't hold back on my judgment anymore, and sadly, my judgment is that I'm quite disappointed. So in this video, I want to get into why I ended up disappointed and what I think they could have done or should have done differently to make it better. And while this isn't a film critique, or I'm not a film critic, I think it's only fair to all the people that worked on this, where I'm sure there were some of them that really gave their best with the task that they were given, to also talk about some of the things that were good about this series. So let's get into it. So let's start with why I ended up disappointed with this series. And I'm going to start with basically the strongest reason, for me personally at least, why I was disappointed. And that's that this is what we got as the continuation of Iron Man's legacy. Really, Marvel? Like, Marvel could have published a very similar series about a smart girl that develops some kind of new technology that plays out basically exactly like Ironheart. And I would have said, you know, I can't empathize with the protagonist that much, and the story is maybe a bit predictable or not that exciting, but whatever, it's okay. But no, Marvel really wanted to put the Iron Man name in there, and you know, I get it. It gets them a lot of attention, calling it Ironheart, saying that it's about the continuation of Iron Man's legacy. But with that attention also come expectations. And I think it's only fair for us as an audience that when we hear Ironheart and Tony Stark's legacy, that we have certain expectations that go with that. And I really think that this combination of attention and expectations is what ended up really backfiring on this show. Like, I'm going to cut them some slack that it's basically an impossible task to begin with. Like, continuing someone's legacy is very difficult, and it's hard to do that in a way that satisfies everyone, because we're all going to have slightly different expectations for the continuation of Iron Man's legacy. Because how can you like honor a legacy? You know, a legacy is even bigger than the character himself actually was. So that's like something very big that you're trying to live up to. But I think what they ended up doing is definitely not the right approach when you're trying to honor Tony Stark's legacy. I mentioned this at the end of my reaction, but I'm going to elaborate on it now. And that's one of my favorite quotes that I think of after having seen the last episode of Ironheart. And that's at the end of Iron Man 1 when Tony Stark says, "I just finally know what I have to do, and I know in my heart that it's right." Like, you can say a lot of things about Tony Stark. Yes, he's arrogant and egotistical oftentimes, but he has heart. And that's what I think Riri is missing. So let's actually talk a bit about Riri, because she is the protagonist, the supposedly hero of this show. And I just had trouble empathizing with her. Like, one big thing that really annoyed me, especially in the 4th, 5th, and 6th episode, because at the beginning I was like, okay, she has some flaws and she's making dumb mistakes, but that can be part of her character arc. Like, yes, at the beginning we see her in her flawed state, but then I really wanted her to grow, at least in the second half of the first season. And I didn't really see that growth that would have made me empathize with her. Like, yes, maybe a bit, but she just didn't really take responsibility for her actions. And the entire time I was just waiting for that moment when she finally acknowledges what she did, and that a lot of the bad things that happened in that show were her fault, owns up to it, learns from it, and then becomes a better version of herself.
Because that's what heroes do.
That's what I want to see. I wanted to see that Tony Stark moment when he said, "I just finally know what I have to do, and I know in my heart that it's right." Like, that was the moment where Tony Stark really became more than just himself and stood for more than just himself. And that moment, it was just missing for me. And the show knows this too. Like, they know that the Riri we see in season 1 has a lot of terrible character traits, and they're pointed out to her a couple times. And there's also that one scene where she asks if she's a good person. And I thought like, yes, that's a very good question to ask yourself. And maybe now we'll see some character growth, but nothing really came from that.
Do you think I'm a good person? Just figured to ask.
Good, bad, words don't really mean anything.
And also, several episodes ended with her at an emotional low point where everything was going wrong and she was crying and was all teared up. And I thought, yeah, okay, now we can learn more about the character. Now we can empathize with her. Now we can see how she digs herself out of that emotional low point. But at that point, the episode always ended, and then at the beginning of the next episode, she was just fine again. Then at the end, when she basically makes the deal with the devil or Mephisto, that gave it like the final blow for me, where I thought like, wow, did she not learn anything in this first season? And I guess you can give the show the benefit of the doubt that the growth I'm hoping for, that they had that planned for maybe season 2, which is now apparently cancelled, and maybe we'll get that growth in some appearance of her in other shows or series or movies in the MCU, hopefully. But for now, what we got, I couldn't really empathize with that. And then there's also some logical errors about her character that kind of bothered me. Like, for example, we find out that the reason she wants to build the Iron Man armor, or why she's so obsessed with the Iron Man suit, is that she wants it to protect the people that she loves. And that, in theory, I like. But then it's like, okay, in order to build the Iron Man suit, she's willing to do criminal things that then endanger the people she loves. So it's like, you kind of see the issue there. Like, I like the idea behind it, but then the execution doesn't really make sense for me. And then the other thing that already began early in right in episode 1, which is like, I can't really get behind how she could struggle financially if she's so smart. And like, we see all the things that she just easily invents. And I feel like if I were that smart and I could invent things like that, I definitely wouldn't be struggling financially, and I definitely wouldn't need to take part in criminal activities to get money. Like, why don't you just create a company or patent some of that technology, sell that technology to other companies for millions of dollars instead of taking part in criminal activities for thousands of dollars? It's like, it just bothers me. And then kind of circling back to the Iron Man legacy, like, yes, they talk about the legacy, and yes, they put the Iron Man, Ironheart name in there, and they give her the Iron Man suit. But besides that, I don't know, maybe I'm missing some parallels, but I'm not really getting the theme of the Iron Man legacy. I don't really see how she's like guided by the Iron Man legacy and wants to continue Tony Stark's legacy, Tony Stark's way of life or whatever. I don't really see it. So while watching, it just felt so disconnected from Iron Man, from Tony Stark, and I don't know, maybe this is a coping mechanism of mine, but I just refuse to accept this as Tony Stark's legacy.
I need cash. Money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
Get that bitch off the monitor.
And now, having said all that, here's how I think they could have done it better. If they would have told the same story, like a coming-of-age story about a smart, young girl that has the same traumatic experience as Ironheart with her best friend and her father dying, and then gets inspired by Tony Stark about what he was able to achieve with just his intellect, and then maybe founds a company with some of her inventions and uses that money to create an Iron Man armor of herself to then protect the people that she loves. And on that way, you know, maybe there's some bad guy that then wants to use or steal her technology for bad, or whatever like the obstacle would be that she needs to overcome. But having it be something like that, and maybe she takes a look at Tony Stark's history and tries to look what he did good, look what mistakes he maybe made, tries to avoid some of those mistakes, maybe makes some of the same mistakes herself, and then kind of realizes like, oh yeah, it's not that simple, and empathizes more with Tony Stark and tries to learn from him And if she does that in a satisfying way, I think we would have all been very happy to eventually see her do better than Tony Stark.
I just wanted to be like you. And I wanted you to be better.
That is a story that I think I would enjoy very much to watch. And I mean, it's just an idea. I'm not a screenwriter, but it's just an idea of a fan that I think could have been a lot more entertaining or a lot more enjoyable to watch and would have felt more like the continuation of Iron Man's legacy. But let me know your thoughts on that idea in the comments. And now, before I end this video, I do want to take some time to appreciate some of the good things about this series, because only very rarely is something like 100% bad. Like, there's always some positive angle you can look at it. Or I mean, there's also several people out there that like this show. So I always try to look at it from that perspective. So if there's one thing in this show that left a lasting emotional impression on me that I'll hopefully remember in a couple of months or maybe even years, it's the message behind that garage scene where they take a look at the memory between Riri and her father, and where the message kind of is that if you force yourself to forget somebody that you lost or whatever the traumatic experience was, you'll also forget all the good memories you have with that person. So that forcing yourself to forget isn't the right approach, but actually remembering somebody is a way healthier, way better approach of honoring somebody. At least that's the message I saw in there for me. And I really like that message. And I always love it when in a show or series, there's like a positive message or life lesson like that. So I really enjoyed that they put that scene in there. And although I already mentioned it in my last video, to kind of complete this series review, I want to add it here. I really like the character of Joe in the first couple episodes. I think while something interesting happened to him, in the last couple episodes it all happened a bit fast and then became kind of weird. But in the first couple episodes, I really liked him. He made me laugh several times. And I think he was a complex, interesting character, at least at the start. And then the last thing I want to mention that I really liked is that they introduced Mephisto. He's a character I heard many fan theories about in the past, and theories about will he enter the MCU, how will he be in the MCU. So I really like that we finally got him, and in that last episode, he was definitely intriguing for me, and very cocky, like the way he laughed at the power of Dormammu. So making us think that he's way more powerful. So I'm interested to see how this character will be relevant in the coming movies and series in the MCU. So I'm very glad that he was finally introduced to us. So that concludes my last video on Ironheart Season 1. As I said, I sadly ended up disappointed with this series. But for all of you out there that really enjoyed this series, enjoyed the character of Riri, hey, that's awesome. More power to you. I'm happy for you. Like, we all have different expectations to the continuation of Iron Man's legacy. So if the show hit the spot for you, that's awesome. But that's been it for now. Hopefully I'll see you again in my MCU rewatch series or whenever I watch something new that Marvel puts out. So hopefully I'll see you there.